The moment you as a founder pick up your phone and start talking about your business, you're creating a personal brand and you're promoting the business. If you're starting out, rather focus on promoting the business as you, the founder. Why should people believe in you? What makes you so unique that give people a taste of your personality, because that's most likely something that they would want to connect to, and that will make it easier for them to give you money in exchange to a faceless corporation.
With the hindsight of that experience and now looking into potentially other businesses, or you get a business that comes to you and they want you to invest, what are the red flags you immediately pick up that this is going to go sideways?
Eventually came to this conclusion that if everything had to burn to the ground, all I can do is just try again. And that was quite a liberating feeling to feel. It's like, okay, well, and I actually got weirdly excited about it. I was like, what will the new logo look like?
Already.
Maybe I can have a new name for it.
I interface with a lot of entrepreneurs, and they seem to, even if sometimes they don't voice it, but it almost feels like they're constantly waiting for the big break. And I think we've seen enough case studies to know that those settings usually are a setup for failure for a lot of people.
When you believe it could happen today or tomorrow or next week or next year, and you're okay with any date, that's when things start to move much faster, because there's no resisting energy. And I think that goes for everything, whether you're going through a divorce, whether you're going through a difficult time with your business, whether you're going through a difficult time with a friend or a partner, whatever it is, you have the power to decide how it affects you.
Hello, Resonate community, and welcome to the best and the biggest sales and entrepreneurship podcast in the whole wide world. Now, we all know that a lot of businesses do not die because they lack great ideas. But sometimes people just do not have the right skills and the knowledge to turn an amazing idea into a great business. And the guest that I have today is about to furnish us with all the nuggets. So let me warn you, grab your pen, your notebook, your notes app, whatever it is, because you are about to write some notes. My guest today is Jandre De Beer. He is a performance marketing specialist, an investor, and the founder of V8 Media and V8 Capital. His companies are focused on scaling direct to customer. This is going to be interesting. Brands through marketing and strategic investment. Through his work, listen to this, he's worked with 500 plus founders, helped build 30 plus top performing brands, some that you are currently buying in the stores right now. He invests in high growth businesses across multiple sectors and oversees a portfolio generating hundreds of millions in revenue. This is the guy we need to be listening to. Yandre, thank you so much for joining me.
That sounds very impressive. But I don't know if it's all true.
Is it not true?
Sometimes I reflect on it. I was like, it's surreal to think that is,
Yeah.
that is true, to be honest. But it sounds more impressive than it feels. I suppose Johan will tell you. He's sitting there.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for being, inviting me on the podcast. I'm very grateful to be here.
Thank you. I'm so excited to chat to you. Before we actually get into the meat of the conversation, we do a 5 round of questions here just to get to know you a little bit more better. Are you ready for those?
I think so.
Okay. What's the fastest way to kill a good business?
The fastest way to kill a good business is to be ignorant and egotistical and not willing to learn as a founder.
Sure. Okay. You went all the way in right in the beginning. First word that comes to mind when you hear entrepreneurship.
Risk and reward.
That's good. That is very good. That is very good.
Yeah.
This is a question I'm enjoying asking a lot of entrepreneurs. If your journey was a flavor, what would it be, or what would it taste like?
My journey.
Yeah.
Sand.
Why?
Beach sand.
I want to say yuck and beach sand has been...
No, I think sometimes, it's a matter of, if you reflect on beach sand in itself, it's such a beautiful thing. But sometimes if you actually put it in your mouth, it doesn't taste that nice. And I think that's kind of like what entrepreneurship is about. It's nice walking on the sand.
Yeah.
And you be able to reflect and go, oh, wow, this is so beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm enjoying this moment. But if you had to put the sand in your mouth, you're going, that doesn't taste that great. And I think that's kind of like what entrepreneurship represents. It's understanding that it looks amazing from the outside, but when you taste it, it's probably terrible. And I mean it in the most loving sense. It's like people inflate how easy and how beautiful it actually is. That is what you see on the outside is just the tip of the iceberg. And that comes back to your introduction. It's like, it sounds so obviously impressive, but at the same time, it doesn't feel that way when you're in the trenches building it.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably what I was alluding to there, and that's why I say
Yeah.
peach sand, because it's almost like it's such a beautiful thing, but when you actually put it in your mouth, it doesn't taste that great.
Yeah. Are you writing? You sound like you're currently in a very reflective season.
I've been in a reflective season, for the last 4 or 5 years of my life, just contemplating whether what I'm doing is what I'm actually enjoying, and I think. Is it really my highest level of excitement? And is it really making the impact that I want to make?
Yeah.
So, you're spot on. I'm definitely in a reflective phase, and I enjoy it. And obviously, the comment didn't really give it much thought there, but I think it's just the analogy that resonates with me.
Yeah, a lot. When I was reading your accomplishments, and by the way, it's like a tip of the iceberg. There's so much more to that. Looking at your profile, I'm curious to know, where did it all start?
It started roughly in 2011 when I just desperately wanted to make some extra money, and I went onto Google, like any, we call it bro marketers or any internetpreneurs. Probably their journey started in the same way, which was just, how do I make money online? So that was my Google search. And then Google was, quite technical about it. It's like, you need to start a website. And it's like, how do I start a website? And I was like, well, I can't do that. So let me pay someone to do it for me. And then when I had the website up and running, I thought the money was going to start rolling in. And it was just crickets. So I went back to Google. I was like, you lied.
It's not working.
It's not working. So I Googled how to drive traffic to a website. And that's kind of like where the journey really started taking off. I was like, there you can do all these different things and learn all these different skills on how to drive people to a destination. And I think that's really what a business is all about. It's about having something to show, but then you need to ensure that you actually find people to show it to. In a retail environment, you would ideally want to be in a good location in a mall where people walk past the store and see what you have to offer. And online is no different. Online is, unfortunately, the store is hidden, and you're going to have to go out and tell people about it. So you don't have the luxury of people walking past, for free. When I say that, is like in a retail store, you pay your rent and people are almost guaranteed to walk past.
Yes.
Where with a website, you pay a lot less rent, but nobody's walking past and you're going to have to go fetch them. And I think I learned that lesson the hard way.
Sure. Was it something that you were passionate about when you were stepping into?
It bit me so hard that I couldn't sleep till I figured it out. And it wasn't something that I felt like I needed to figure out and I was desperate to figure out. It was something that just woke up this immense level of excitement in me, to the point where at 3 o'clock in the morning I couldn't sleep, and all I wanted to do was jump on my computer and play around with what's possible. And that is the most amazing feeling. And I think Johan, my videographer, who's here now as well, we were saying in the car that feeling is almost undescribable to people. And to be honest, for the first time in my life, I think I have that feeling again, and there's for different reasons. And it's such a beautiful feeling. It's like when you have that level of excitement that you actually can't sleep, then naturally you're going to obsess over figuring stuff out.
Yeah, sure. That level of excitement, I believe for some entrepreneurs can be almost like a anxiety-inducing.
Yeah, I think anxiety is excitement filtered through a negative lens of or a negative perspective of yourself. So if you think about it, like anxiety is actually just excitement in disguise, but the reason you're anxious is because you're unsure of your own ability to pull it off.
Ooh.
So I think that's something I've learned, is that when I get anxious, I remind myself that this potentially could be excitement, and the only reason you're anxious is because you don't believe in your own ability to actually make it happen.
Sure.
So excitement alludes to trust in the fact that things might not work out. And I choose to put my trust in the fact that things will work out.
Yeah.
And there are moments where I struggle with anxiety as well. But I'd say it's fractional to what it used to be when I was much younger. Yeah,
Mm.
and it's not because we're doing less; we're obviously doing more. But I realized that when you realize that you can actually relabel it and change the meaning of it, and try to truly understand what it is,
Mm.
you can navigate it.
Mm. Were there mistakes along the way?
Absolutely zero.
Perfection.
I think we've probably, if mistakes were a percentage, I think mistakes are probably 98%
Sure.
of the things we do, and the things that work are probably 2 to 5%. But when it works well, and it works well because of all the mistakes that you've made. So if it was a quantified number, hypothetically speaking, I think mistakes are probably 90% of the journey and success is only 10. But when those success hits, it makes the public perceive it as 100% just smooth riding.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. Because I think if we can all relate to the fact that 90% of it is mistakes, then the question is, why do entrepreneurs feel so lonely when we all go through the same thing?
I think you feel lonely when you almost lose the purpose of why you're doing it in the first place, and when you don't have people supporting you in the mission. And that can be solved by picking an objective that truly fulfills you and doing it with people you actually care a shit about. My motto is do cool shit with cool people. I think we all think that the destination is what it's all about.
Yeah.
But it's a bumper sticker cliche
Yeah.
that the journey is really all that matters. Because once you've achieved your goal, whether it's 10 million or 100 million, and you realize the goal never stops.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, you're going to be reminiscing and you're going to be nostalgic about the people that you walked the path with more than the actual process of achieving, more than the actual goal that you've achieved.
Yeah. Yandre, I hope you're writing a book. Because you are like giving us bar for bar for bar for bar.
I think everything is just a perspective, and there might be people listening to this that thinks it's the stupidest things they've ever heard, and that's okay. but that is just my point of view.
Yeah, I highly doubt, but I want to piggyback off what you just mentioned about doing cool stuff with cool people. And I think to myself, when you start a business, like you mentioned, it was you in your house and you were looking on the internet. It was you alone, right? And you had this belief that you're going to build something. You became so obsessed with it. What do you think had to happen internally for you to be almost more open to be a leader to a group of people that are going to walk the vision with you?
I think for me, and I'm speaking for myself, is that the journey was quite lonely because you take all the responsibility, and when you care about the people that you're walking the path with, that responsibility is exponentially more. So for me, how I dealt with it was to make people part of the goal and the plan, and to be transparent about what we're trying to achieve.
Yeah.
I think you feel isolated when you are chasing a goal that's separate from the goal that the people are in the company are there for. And I mean it in the most simplest terms. If you and me had to start a business and we brought 10 people on board and we were the only people that knew why we're doing this, then it will feel lonely to both of us. It will feel less lonely because we have each other. And if it was just me and I'm the only person that knows what the goal is and the reason I'm doing this is, and you don't share that with anybody, then every stress becomes 100% purely your stress, because people don't understand why you're stressing, because there's no connection for them to make between the stress and the ambition and the goal.
Sure.
So I think when you're transparent about the goal, the vision and the mission, and you get people that support you and buy into that, the journey becomes less lonely. And for some people that means bringing on a partner. or for some people it means being transparent with every single person in the company, regardless of their role.
Yeah.
And for me, it was both. Nothing I've achieved really, I would feel like I've achieved for myself. Therefore, I don't really take credit for it. And what I can tell everybody else, you're always going to feel broke, especially when you're ambitious, because I feel broke as shit right now, regardless of how much money we generate for companies that we either help or own. So when you realize you're always going to feel broke and you realize you're always going to reinvest the money to keep growing,
Yeah.
Because there's nothing more rewarding than that, then it almost becomes this just beautiful journey, and that
Yeah.
everything is okay.
It's almost like the relationship of risk and reward, like you mentioned in the beginning, that they actually go hand in hand. It's like you're so addicted to this risk and the fact that it brings the certain rewards, and you're no longer tied to the net worth or the amount associated with how much ever you're going to have in your account. That's profound.
I think I'm 37 now, but I was very fortunate to be quite young when I realized that what people think about me is not my business. What you think about me has got nothing to do with me. And when you stop trying to keep up with the Joneses, as they say, and you just do what you want to do because it makes you happy, then life becomes a lot more rewarding. But we are programmed, and unfortunately we live in a society where we always want to show people that we're doing well. We want to prove to people that we're growing, and I think I also dealt with that egotistically when I was younger, and as I started the business, I wanted to have 100% of my company because I can do it. And now I would probably never ever start a company again where I'm going to have 100%.
You want to share the risk.
I want to share the risk. I want to share, but also I want to share the upside too.
Yeah.
It's like a rugby team, and I used to play professionally, and I used to love rugby. What is the most rewarding thing for a team is to go through the challenges together and then eventually win the World Cup together. If you're going to ask every single rugby player what made the World Cup so valuable to them, they're not going to tell you it's because we won the World Cup. They're going to tell you it's because of all the struggles we had to overcome to win the World Cup. And that creates a certain level of fulfillment, a certain bond, a certain camaraderie, a certain level of energy, frequency, call it what you want. Like I'm getting goosebumps right now. That really makes the journey so fulfilling.
Yeah.
And that's why I wouldn't ever want to do it by myself.
Yeah. You mentioned that you realized much earlier that it doesn't matter what anybody thinks about you. Was there an incident that changed that perspective for you?
There wasn't one specific incident per se. I think it was a compounding effect of a lot of different things. Some events carried more weight than others. But I think the one event, there were 3 events that actually happened. And it was funny enough in 2021, which actually equates to 3 if you count 2 and 1 together. It was the year of 21, which is 3. I was 33 in that year. And 3 things happened.
Wow.
The first thing that happened was I took psilocybin for the first time. Magic mushrooms, for those who don't know.
Okay.
With intention, obviously, to discover who and what I am. Because my goal is to leave this planet. And as I'm lying on my sickbed, I truly want to say that I am 100% my most authentic self, and that I have lived most of my life as my most authentic self. Meaning that everything I do, say, feel, engage, behave is because of what I choose to do, because of me and not because of anybody else.
Yeah.
So I went on this psilocybin journey for 6 hours. And that's a quick way to realize that, you don't really matter. And that the universe is much bigger than you think it is. And that you're just a microscopic dust in this big, vast emptiness. So that's one way to realize that you don't matter. And then the second thing was the business grew at such a rate that I really thought we were going to lose it all. And it grew so fast that I couldn't control it. and so many things went wrong that I thought we were going to burn to the ground. And I read this book called The Surrender Experiment. It's a great book. It's called The Surrender Experiment by an author called Michael Singer. And I read this book, and it speaks about this hippie who, by complete chance, became a billionaire over a series of events that happened in his life. And he never wanted to be a billionaire, but what he realized was there's two voices in your head. The first voice is the monkey brain voice that tries to analyze every single thing that happens to you on a daily basis, and it tries to categorize what's happening to you, whether it's good or bad, good or bad, good or bad. And that's just your survival mind, your reptilian brain, if you will. And then the second voice is your intuition. And he says you need to distinguish between those two voices. And when you start to understand that those two voices are separate voices, and that your intuition, that voice, carries the most amount of power in terms of direction for your life, and you follow that, then amazing things start to happen. And he ended the book basically by speaking about how he kept surrendering in his life, because his intuition told him, you cannot control this, just surrender.
Wow.
And as I was going through this challenge of keeping this business from falling apart, I was like, you know what? You can bleep this out, but I said, fuck it. I literally, in my mind, took a bag of popcorn, and I envisioned myself just sitting next to the sideline, watching what's happening, because there's no way for me to control it all. But I did it with the energy that whatever happens next is supposed to happen, because I want to believe that there's lessons in this, and I want to believe that everything is happening the way that it should. And it was funny, like the weirdest thing happened. Everything just started falling into place.
Wow.
And I realized that we create most of the friction in our businesses, which is a discussion that we can unpack maybe a bit later. But the last thing that happened to me was I lost my 1-year-old son in a freak accident. He loved to swim when he was 1 year old, and the pool was open for like 10 minutes, and then he got distracted, and he ended up in the pool, and he passed away. And those three things, the surrendering to a higher power, knowing that I can only do so much, the first thing of taking, magic mushrooms, realizing that I'm nothing important in this life. And the last thing, it was like I almost lost the most important thing to me, so now I've got nothing else to lose, so everything else is a bonus now. I think those three perspectives allowed me to see reality from a completely different point of view, and it's allowed me to make very different decisions that I probably would have made before the age of 33. And I'm so grateful for those three things. Those three things are the best three things that ever happened to me, including my son passing away. And I say that in a way where we were speaking about this earlier, Yandre and I said, I kind of have to say it's the worst, best thing that ever happened to me. Otherwise people will think I'm crazy. But I truly believe it happened for a reason, and I'm so grateful for the fact that it happened. Even though I still miss his physical presence, I'm so grateful that it happened, because I would not be the father, the husband, the colleague, and the person I am today if that didn't happen, because that allowed me to wake up and kind of choose who I want to be. And if it wasn't for that event, I'd probably be still fast asleep.
Sure.
So yeah, three things
Yeah.
are probably filling the majority of my perspective today. But like I said, it was compounding over time.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that, because I think these three things are not, they're so intimate and so personal, and I'm so, how you've been able to come out of those things is remarkable.
Well, life is just one big perspective.
Yeah.
What I've realized is that whatever happens to you is just a blank canvas. There's no good or bad, really. And I mean it in the sense of, if I had to say something that offended you, and I didn't mean it intentionally to offend you, and you'd get upset and walk away, yeah, a lot of people would say, well, that's objectively bad. Or if someone had to stab someone, it was like, that is objectively bad. But everybody has a choice on how they want to engage with that event. So as opposed to judging the event, what we should be doing is judging, or not even judging, we should be paying attention to how we're acting in accordance to it. So the event itself is actually neutral. It's like a blank canvas. So imagine if this wall here was just completely white.
Yeah.
That is the event. That's your son passing away, or that's your business failing. You don't have to paint it black. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to paint that canvas black by thinking it's the worst thing that ever happened to you. You, as the observer of your own reality, have the power to choose that I want to paint that a beautiful rainbow. Why can my son passing away not be the best thing that ever happened to me? Who decides?
Sure.
You know, when I tell people, it's like, that must be the worst thing that ever happened to you. It's like, who are you to decide what the worst thing that ever happened to me? Why? And we allow people to have that power over us, and we go, yeah, it is the worst thing that ever happened to me. It is. And then when you start to adapt that level of mentality, you produce that level of energy.
Yeah.
And one thing psilocybin will teach you, and magic mushrooms will teach you, is that everything is energy. So if you start to produce that energy, then you're going to get more of that energy back. And I think when you choose to produce good energy in accordance to the situation, I'm not saying that you have to pretend that it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Because do your grieving, express yourself. I journaled for 3 months straight. I probably wrote like 3 books full. But that's how you express. And then you go, hey, I can look at this beautiful white canvas and paint it anything I want. And if I'm going to paint it, I'm going to paint it the way I want to paint it. And you can paint a beautiful rainbow. And funny enough, here I am telling people that it is one of the best things that could have ever happened to me. Because what I'm sharing now started with that perspective 3 months after it happened. It's like I can either go down a road of darkness, or I can go down a road of beauty. And if he passed away, why not make the most of it? If you're not going to make the most of it, then you're just wasting the event. And I think that goes for everything, whether you're going through a divorce, whether you're going through a difficult time with your business, whether you're going through a difficult time with a friend or a partner, whatever it is, you have the power to decide how it affects you.
Sure. It's almost like what I'm hearing a lot from you is you have to take ownership of the narrative you play concerning all the things that have happened around you, for you, to you.
You know, there's a lot of truth in what you're saying, but it's not so much ownership over what's happening to you, but more ownership over how you respond to it. You know, if you walk over the street and someone hits you with a car, you can claim ownership by saying, I should have looked left and right and left again, or whatever it is. But what if you did? You know, what if you followed all the rules and it still happened to you? If I have to claim ownership over what happened to me, it would be very hard for me to logically do so. So there's a lot of things we don't have ownership over. However, I do think you should always adapt that perspective. But I think the one thing that you do have 100% ownership over, that you might not even know you do, is how you're going to act in accordance to what's happened to you. That's where the ownership really comes in. How do I choose to behave in accordance to the event?
It clarifies it so well. Sure. What you're sharing is so profound. It's almost getting me teary.
I mean, and I didn't want to make this, sorry for making this a deeper conversation that it needed to be, but I think it ties so beautifully into business as well, because so many founders play the victim mentality when it comes to their business. Oh, it's my colleague. Oh, it's my founder. It's my partner. It's, you know, I'm so unlucky with partners. You know, oh, really? Are you really? You know, or are you the problem? You know, because you producing the energy of lack, scarcity, greed. I get screwed over all the time. Yeah, because, you know, you are most likely living in fear, thinking that everybody's going to screw you over all the time. That's why they do. Because you cannot experience anything that you're not the energetic frequency of. That's
Yeah.
just how reality is constructed if you understand quantum physics. Now, whether you believe in God or any other religious text, it doesn't really matter what you believe. Science proves that everything is energy, and the energy you put out is what you get back. And I really believe that's what Jesus meant with what you sow, you shall reap, and as within, so without. And I believe that's what the Buddhists believe is karma. And at the end of the day, all these ancient scriptures are actually, in my opinion, more archetypal explanations on how the universe works. And when you start to understand that, and you realize that you have so much more power just by changing your perspective and your energy, you will notice that less people are screwing you over.
Yeah.
Because with the moment you go, you know what, I'm going to go into this deal not worried about whether I'm going to get screwed over or not. But I'm going to do it because it feels right. I'm going to do it because it excites me.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do it and I'm going to give it my best. And I'm not going to stress about whether someone has got my best interest in heart or whether someone is going to try and screw me over or not. The moment you do that, you realize that, oh shit, it's been 2 years and I've had the best relationship ever. Or that's why people say I always get boyfriends that cheat on me. Yeah, because you're insecure and that energy is being created, which means the person that you're with is feeling that energy and they cannot help but interact, engage with it. Like it's like, and you start to create that reality for yourself. And then people go, I knew it.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
It's 100% a self-fulfilling prophecy. And I think it's the exact same thing with business and everything else in your life. There's no law that says it only applies to business and it only applies to religion and it only applies to it applies to every single thing that exists in the universe. And your business is one of those things.
Yeah. I'm learning a lot from so many things that you're sharing. And I want to delve back to one of the things that you mentioned that happened to you on the year of 33 when the 3 things happened. Around the business growing so fast that things went out of control. I interface with a lot of entrepreneurs and they seems to, even if sometimes they don't voice it, but it almost feels like they're constantly waiting for the big break. They're waiting for the big contract, the big deal, and the moment of virality where everyone's going to know and everyone's going to buy. And I think we've seen enough case studies to know that those settings usually are a setup for failure for a lot of people. And when you look back, particularly at that with the business having grown so fast, what do you think could have been done differently? Was there anything that could have been done differently?
So I want to answer your question, but I also want to touch on your point. What happens when you wait for that big moment? What are you producing energetically?
Desperation, maybe?
And when you understand that everything is energy, and you say to yourself, one day, I'm waiting for it. You're producing the energy of telling the universe that it's not going to happen now. So when you say, I'm waiting for that break, it's going to happen at some point. And you produce that energy, and you're so desperate for it to happen, indirectly you energetically saying to God or the universe that I'm not ready for it. I'm not ready for it. Therefore, I'm waiting. It's going to happen. Not today, but it will eventually. And then tomorrow, you're going to feel the exact same way. And then you move it one day further and one day further. And I think that's where faith comes in. And your energy starts to change the moment you believe. It's like when you actually believe it's going to happen, it's just a matter of time. When you believe it could happen today or tomorrow or next week or next year, and you're okay with any date, that's when things start to move much faster because there's no resisting energy. And that's, we make the mistake of thinking that we pray with words. And even though words have energy, they're not as powerful as what your emotions are.
That's true.
Emotions are the most powerful energy. So when you pray, you don't pray with your words as much as you pray with your energy. So when you eat, yes, you can say, I'm thankful for my food. But trust me, the universe is not going to respond. God is not going to respond as much as you actually going, you know what? I am so grateful for this food without saying a word, just feeling it. And I think when you feel like something is going to happen later, you produce the result of later because you're pushing it away. So it comes down to faith, really. And that's why Jesus said, it's not me that's healed you, it's you. It's your faith.
Yeah.
And he's mentioned that many, many times. He's like, I'm not the one doing these miracles. This too you shall do and more. But answering your question, which was about the business, the growth, and controlling it and things falling apart, it latches on what I just described. I just decided to have faith that whatever will happen will be constructive for me. And I had an honest conversation with everybody, and I said, guys, I know we are going through a massive shift here. I know that everybody is under pressure. Tell me what I can do to make everybody's lives better. And I started, helping where I could. I started phoning clients, apologizing, refunding people. And I then eventually came to this conclusion that if everything had to burn to the ground, all I can do is just try again. And that was quite a liberating feeling to feel. I was like, okay, well, and I actually got weirdly excited about it. I was like, what will the new logo look like?
Already.
Maybe I can have a new name for it. But it was a situation where it was just like, if everything falls to the ground, like, what? So what? So what? We're just going to try again. And if I have to refund every single client, so be it. I became so confident that we have a model that works, and that's what's most important.
Yeah.
So don't judge the external. Focus on the internal. And I think internally I knew we had a great service, and I internally knew that we were going to crush it. It's just unfortunate that, we were in this weird metamorphosis phase. And then I thought to myself, so what? I know that we've got a proven model now. That's all that matters. And I can just build it again. And I think when you reach that point where you don't really care, but you still work as if you do,
yes,
that's when you're not resisting all the favors the universe have got in store for you, because you're not producing any energy that's just pushing it away or complicating it even more than it needs to be.
Sure. With the hindsight of that experience, and now looking into potentially other businesses, or you get a business that comes to you and they want you to invest, what are the red flags you immediately pick up that this is going to go sideways?
The founder. The founder is usually the reason why the number one reason why we wouldn't do the deal. I call it business maturity. Like, people think business maturity is having a business for a long time or being an entrepreneur for a long time. But that is not really business maturity, in my opinion. I think you could be 60 years old and still act like a child. And the parallel I'm drawing there is that you could be a business owner that's had a business for 10 years, but still run it as if it's your first day in business. You could be an entrepreneur on this journey of being an entrepreneur for 10 years, but still not know what it takes to build a business. And so the founder is definitely the most important part. Like, the founder needs to be open-minded, meaning teachable. The founder needs to have a very high rate of learning. Now, because you're teachable, you're going to learn things. The next component is how quickly can you learn things and implement it. And then the last thing is just grit of not stopping until you figured it out. I think if you're teachable and you have a very high rate of learning and you've got grit, and lastly, obviously obvious, it's just understanding of your market and your product, obviously.
Yeah.
But let's put that aside. I mean, that's obvious. But I think if you're open-minded, so your ego is not in the way, willing to learn, and you've got a high rate of learning, and you've got an immense level of grit to figure shit out and make it happen, that is the people that we want to back with money and resources and opportunities. But to answer your question furthermore, and I think this might be valuable to the audience, is, we want to look at what product do you actually have and what pain point does it solve in the market. Because people only buy things that solve a certain level of pain in their life.
Yeah.
You buy insurance because you're worried about that something might happen. You buy food because you don't want to have the pain of hunger, and you have a house. You buy. People would say, but what about an iPhone? You probably don't need the latest iPhone. Yeah, but that person has got so much pain labeling themselves as a failure by not having an iPhone,
Sure.
that they actually buy the iPhone and therefore their pain is now cured. That pain was created by the ego.
So it doesn't matter what creates the pain.
Doesn't matter what the pain is always, the pain is the originating factor. I'd like to believe. You might call it what you want, but it all started with some level of pain or frustration.
I see.
And there might be other things that obviously are added on top of it or next to it, but I think that is the most important thing. So what pain are you really solving? And then margins, like what profitability do you have in the product? I think a lot of entrepreneurs don't know how much profit they actually need in the product or service to grow. Like people think, as long as I can just make double what I'm paying for it. And sometimes, as much as that sounds great, it might not be enough because you don't know what percentage of cost would be allocated to warehouses depending on the level of product that you might be creating or shipping. So making sure that you've re-engineered what actual profit you need in order to grow the business. And that profit starts with the product. Everybody thinks, I'll just sell more. It's like, no, you need to make sure that the profit in the product is enough. And in case you do sell more, great, that you will have enough profit to do what you need to do. And the other thing is just total addressable market. Like how big is the market that you're actually trying to help? Because we actually made a mistake of, not even a mistake, sorry, I shouldn't have said that, but it's like we invested in a business that's extremely niche. And it's by no means a mistake because the market will continue to grow. And the lady who's heading that up is an exceptional human being. And there's no doubt that she's going to be the first millionaire in her family. Like I believe it with my whole heart. But I think we made the mistake of assuming that product and that niche is what's going to get her there. And I think the market will most likely adapt at some point and keep growing. But what we've realized is we're going to have to extend the product ranges in order to ensure that we capture a bigger market there. But yeah, so it's those are the four things. It's the founder, the margin, total addressable market, and essentially what pain are you really solving? And attached to that is like what makes it unique, because everybody can solve a pain, but what makes it unique really?
Yeah. I want to also get into building a business brand versus building a personal brand. I think in this day and age, we're having a lot of conversations around creating content. There are thought leaders. I would even refer to you as a thought leader. In as much as you're an entrepreneur and a business owner, you've got a personal brand that exists. How do we intersect the two?
Well, I think the term is founder-led content, right?
Yes.
So we live in an age where people just want to buy and connect with people.
Yeah.
So that said, the moment you as a founder pick up your phone and start talking about your business, you're ticking both. You're creating a personal brand and you're promoting the business. Now, does it mean that you shouldn't focus on creating an actual brand for your business? No. I'm just saying if you're starting out, rather focus on promoting the business as you, the founder. Why should people believe in you? What makes you so unique that you've come up with this beautiful solution? What have you learned? What is your life experience like that's created this solution? Give people a taste of your personality, because that's most likely something that they would want to connect to, and that will make it easier for them to give you money in exchange to a faceless corporation. I think people want to support people. However, as a brand, you need to be around, and people need to see people. People can still see Yandre, but if they don't know what Yandre does, that becomes almost like a moot point. So you do need to focus on promoting your own brand as well. But I think if you're starting out and you can't afford to do both, founder-led content is definitely the way.
Yeah, it's definitely on the rise at the moment.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, people don't want to watch. People don't want to see what a company is saying as much as they probably were forced to in the past. Like, people want to hear your opinion, because there's a billion opinions out there.
Yeah.
And there's a billion companies that are screaming that they're the best at something. So people want to know you and they want to see you. So I think you can't make a mistake of just starting as a founder to create your own brand. And naturally that will waterfall effect into your business. So V8 Media, for example, I didn't really focus on promoting the brand until year 3. It was all just me. I was obviously on the page, but it was all me. And still today, my face is, plastered all over V8. We're bringing more people on board. We're bringing we're bringing the Exco team. They're also now creating videos and content and stuff like that, so people can see that we're a real organization. So people want to see people. I really believe that.
That is so true. Are there any indicators that a business is ready to scale?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people think they're ready for scale, but they're actually not.
That's very true.
We have a lot of companies coming to V8 Media. Yesterday we had someone randomly walk into the office, even though we never really. Our office is a hybrid office, so it's very cozy, and I mean it's a nice office, but it's like it's not built for bringing corporate bringing people on board and having a board meeting or whatever. And we had someone in the office saying like, I've spoken to your sales team twice, and now I want to speak to you to why you guys don't want me as a client. And
wow,
just by him walking in and telling me that story, I was like, well, it's kind of obvious, just considering how you're acting. But the thing that I've realized there is that the team has analyzed his business and he's not ready. He's not ready to scale. He thinks he's ready, but he's not. And this could be because of the fact that you don't have enough cash flow to support the inventory that needs to be purchased upfront after you've paid the marketing fees and the agency doing the marketing for you. So is there really a healthy runway of cash flow? Because a lot of people that sign up for marketing services would say, cool, I'm just going to give you money for marketing and then the cash will come in and I'll use that cash to buy new stock. It's not really how the formula works, unfortunately. So first of all, you need a great product. You need to make sure that your fulfillment system can actually produce and support the demand that you're going to be creating. So, for example, we had a business, we still have a business that did, in our first Black Friday, we did 1.2 million. In our second Black Friday, in one day, we did over 2 million.
Wow.
And the first Black Friday we properly pushed, we did, like I said, 1.2 million, but we completely broke the business. And we thought we were ready for scale, but we weren't.
Sure.
So staff was overworked, systems got, broken. Hello Peter reviews came in, flooding in like crazy, and we had to completely redesign our support system, our fulfillment system, before we try to scale further. And what's funny is that if you had to look at our revenue chart, it'll grow like this and then plummets down.
Wow.
And then as we had to fix everything, it started growing up again. So the things that you need to look for to understand that you're ready for scale is cash flow, how quickly you can get cash back after you've invested the money, whether it's product or marketing, whatever it is. So that's what we call the cash flow cycle. For example, if I put money into something, how quickly can I get it back? Now, if you don't have the cash flow in the bank to ensure that you can sustain yourself for 3 months before you can actually get this shipping from China back again, then you're not ready for scale. Like, you need to be able to say, I've got enough money to sell these product and my next container is already on the way. But while I am selling the product, I actually have enough stock for the next 3 months. But because I'm scaling, I need to already bring in this retainer. And this retainer is going to cost me 1 or 2 million rand. So I already have to put 1 or 2 million rand in here. I need to put 1 million rands worth of stock in clicks. I'm only going to get it 90 days back. And then I still need to pay for marketing and staff. And I think people don't really do those calculations. So cash flow cycle, and how quickly you can get the cash back. Making sure the product is actually marketing ready. Like, some people think they have a great product and then the packaging is terrible, or they people get a box that's flimsy and it breaks and it's just bad reputation. So it's small things like that you have to make sure that you've got sorted. But the infrastructure is the most important thing. Do you have the infrastructure to allow you to scale? And the question I normally ask, to make this simple for people listening, is, can you double your business tomorrow without increasing your overheads and without increasing your warehouse or your fulfillment team or whatever it may be? So if you can tell me that you can double your growth without having to do all these things, then yes, you're ready for scale. And if you can't, then most likely you're going to have to look at these things first and start planning before you start scaling.
What about the passion? Like, I just know in my heart deep down that I'm ready for scale and the next level looks XYZ, even if there aren't any facts. Because I do see some entrepreneurs falling into that. It's like they just have a knowing.
Yeah, I think it's a level of psychosis that it's almost,
Comes with being an entrepreneur.
yeah, I think there's this beautiful entrepreneurial cycle where you believe everything is possible because you don't have the information to know that it's not.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like as you start to realize it's harder than you thought, you start to get a bit depressed, and essentially you start to doubt yourself, and you think, wow, this is a lot harder than I thought. And then the moment you get the right information or the right mentor or the right person to support you, you start believing in yourself again. And I think as entrepreneurs, we go through all these different cycles, but most people are just ignorant to actually the complexities that scale will create. And that's a beautiful thing. It's a very beautiful thing.
Yeah.
However, I'd say this is where an open mind, this is those three things I spoke about the founder, an open mind, rate of learning, and grit.
Yes.
When you have those three things, then yes, you can be passionate about scale and not have anything ready structurally from an infrastructure point of view ready for scale. But because you have those three things, because you're open to learning, because your ego is not in the way, because you learn really quick, faster than everybody else, and because you have grit, you will figure that out. And if you don't have those three things, everything else just falls and breaks and crumbles.
Part of what I just mentioned is also the ego conversation. And it's also very big, I think, with people in general, but with also entrepreneurs. And I don't think the person who's currently egotistic realizes that they are. Some really don't. Some they just think like, and I could even say there's something about having built something that makes you feel like, I could do this again. I am the right person. I know the decisions I'm making are correct. Are there any indicators that like ego is getting in the way? And how do we, and maybe that's the first question, then the second question is like, how do we start getting out of that?
Yeah, I think red flags that tells me people have ego is when they talk more about their accomplishments than what they want to do. I mean, that's just something small, but you can pick up when someone is name dropping and when someone gets very sensitive to feedback. And I just say, like, we all have some form of ego, right? Because we all have some level of pride. And when I say ego is a complex word actually, but for the sake of the conversation, ego means, potentially being very sensitive to feedback, but, and wanting to do shit for yourself and wanting to prove everybody wrong and wanting to. And I think in a way, when you speak to someone, you can pick up on how they speak. There's a certain tone of voice. I always say, like, when I meet billionaires and the way they speak, they don't have to tell you that they're billionaires. You can just hear in the depth of their voice that they've been down this road. And it's funny, like, I'll see a guy in slops on a beach with his shirt off and his swimming suit, and he'll shake my hand and we'll talk about business. And without having to ask him what he does, essentially anything about his life, I can walk away knowing how successful he is. Just from the way that someone speaks about business. He doesn't even have to tell me what he does, what industry he's in, what experience he's got, who he knows, what's his network like, what is his cash flow runway like. None of that. We can just talk about business, and you can tell this guy, he's someone that you want to work with. And I think that's how people carry themselves is really the point I'm trying to make. It's in your tonality. You can smell desperation. You can smell people trying to prove a point. So it's really just in the way that you carry yourself. And the one thing I always see is, like, when I give feedback, how do you respond to it?
That's big.
So I think that's the biggest thing, really, is that the moment someone gives feedback, does it excite you or does it offend you? And if it excites them, that's a good sign. If it offends them and they go, but you need to understand, it's like, doesn't mean that you're a terrible founder. It just means that you've got a bit of ego to work on. It's like, I'm not trying to put you down. I'm not trying to, this is not about you at all. See, you seeing that the feedback on your business is a direct reflection of your competency, and that's not the case. And I think because you take it personally, you connecting too strong with the outcome and the business itself. I mean, Johan sat there, and there was a funny story. I'm going to tell it on air, Johan, if you don't mind. But Johan have always wanted to do his own thing, and he will do his own thing, and he's going to be extremely successful. But the one day someone asked him, he's like, so do you work for Yandre? And he goes, no, I've got my own thing, and I'm working with him. And I said, it's okay. And I tapped him on the shoulder. I was like, you don't have to be ashamed that you work for someone. It's okay. And I could see like he was, what do you mean? I was like, no, you could see that you got offended when someone said, do you work for someone? And he had a long conversation with me afterwards, and he was like, sure, you know what? I didn't really know that it did trigger me. And it's because I know that I'm capable of doing my own thing. I said, but being capable of doing your own thing and where you are now are two different things. I said, understand that this is just a journey. Yes, believe in yourself. And yes, but also be open to what people perceive you or what people ask you has got nothing to do with your capability or your competency. So yeah, I think that is kind of like a few signs that can give you an indication that ego is in the way.
That is so profound. And I think it also takes a level of humility, you know, from like the story you just relayed about Johan, to actually come back and say, actually, I didn't realize that this is what was going on, and to be willing to unpack that. And I think that shows that ego is actually out of the way, especially if somebody's willing to have that conversation with themselves. You mentioned something about entrepreneurs attaching certain business feedback to like their own personal emotions. And I see this a lot where sometimes when a deal falls through or a client says no and people just, they take it so personal. It's a knock on themselves. How do we separate two?
Well, I can't, again, everything I share is just my own perspective. So I would ask everybody to take it with a pinch of salt. But I'll tell you what I experienced. So I always had a bit of a chip on my shoulder because for a long time in school I was a bit overweight and I never really got any attention, and then I became really good at rugby, and rugby was my way to shine and get attention. And then I adapted this identity that if I'm not good at rugby, I'm not worthy. And funny enough, I became a professional rugby player and I finally felt validated. And then I had to change careers and I had to start at the bottom again. And it was the ego got so hurt, you know, it was so frustrating. And I was working as a marketing manager for the company who bought my first business. And the founder introduced me as my marketing manager. And a part of me was like, you're marketing manager, bro. I founded a business that you invested in, that you bought. And yes, now I'm your marketing manager. And I remember reflecting on it. And I was like, geez, like, why the hell did I feel that way about it? And then I realized it's got to do with my belief in my own competency. And when you say, and when you label me as something, it feels like you're suppressing my competency level. The point I'm trying to make there is that you need to learn and understand yourself first. Introspection is so important. And it starts with why. So journaling. Why do I feel this way? What's making me feel this way? I feel frustrated. Why? What's causing that level of frustration? Someone said this. Why that specific word trigger? It's like really just peeling back the layers of an onion. And the more you start to understand, and this is why magic mushrooms are so freaking profound, because you don't have to journal. It's literally just this awakening moment where your ego is over here. Because what magic mushrooms does, and this is not an advertorial.
Are you about to start a business?
Here's my product. So the point about magic mushrooms is that it switches off the part of your brain that's responsible for the ego.
Okay.
So when you take psilocybin, it actually reduces the capability of the brain to act as if it's part of the ego, and it's almost like this separation. And when you take magic mushrooms and you can see the actual self, which is very hard to do if you're conscious and not eliminating your physical senses to an extent, you don't really realize it. And the only way to get through it is to journal and to introspect and to do all these things. But what happened to me was I always had a chip on my shoulder. I always thought I was going to figure shit out for myself, because I was 21 years old when I discovered the internet and I built a successful business with it. And when my business was stuck in 2019, 2020, we were not really growing. I was at a point where I was just like, I don't have all the answers. And thanks to COVID, I didn't have a choice but to surrender. So I swallowed my pride and I invested $10,000. So that was about 160K at that time, 50K, 150K. Literally all the profit we made that year, and I invested it in a coach. And that coach, that program that I was a part of, allowed me to triple my business the next year.
Wow.
And what happened was, there I realized that I've been my own worst enemy all along. Because finally, when I was open to feedback, finally when I was open to learning what other people have learned in the industry, finally when I was open to listening to other people and their perspectives, that's when everything changed for me. And in that moment, for me, it was just like, I'm never going to have my ego be in the way again. Because as much as it might create pain in the moment, it creates so much more long term. Because it's going to hold you back financially. It's going to hold you back in every part of your life.
That's true.
So isn't it ROI positive to deal with that now and open yourself up for all this beauty if you had to step aside?
Sure.
But yeah, so bottom line, introspection is really the best way to go about it.
Yeah.
And that's how you learn more about yourself. And you'll realize it's got to do with your dad who never thought that you were good enough. Luckily, I've had amazing parents. This is not a reflection on me, but just most people I speak to. It's either I want to make my dad proud.
Yeah.
He never believed in me. My mom thought I was going to be a failure.
Yeah.
It's my wife, or it's always something.
That's true.
And the quicker you get to that, the quicker you're going to be free to just be you. And the moment you just you and you're open to everything that's in front of you, beautiful things start to happen.
Oh, that is so profound. I have so much to ask you. I feel like this is like the intro of the conversation, and we're an hour in.
I'm happy to sit all day.
And we've got so much to talk about, but I wanna wrap this conversation up, and I wanna ask you one last question. I'm hoping we're gonna release some new dates, and I'm hoping you'll be able to join us again. I think you have such a wealth of knowledge that a lot of entrepreneurs need to hear, and they need to listen to, and it's so profound, but it's also real. It really connects with the people, because I think what is being very highlighted from our conversation is that we can share all the strategies and the tools, but if like the entrepreneur and the person is not okay and is not in the right state of mind, it's not going to work.
Well, one last thing I'll say is that the problems in your business is purely a reflection of you. So your own insecurities manifest as problems in your business. So if your business is less than 100 people or less than 50 people, which most likely is the case for most people watching this, then all the problems you're experiencing in your business is directly correlated to you and the decisions that you've made. And when you realize the decisions that you made is backed by your own perspective of reality, your own programming, your own emotions, those three things lead to the decision. And those decisions lead to action. And those actions lead to the problems that you have.
Sure.
So when you can audit those three things, you go, oh, geez, all right, if I can fix these three things, I'm going to fix my decision making, I'm going to fix my actions, and therefore I might have a different result. And people never do the introspection because the ego's in the way.
Yeah.
And therefore, no matter the decision you make, you don't know it because you can't see it, but it's most likely tied to insecurities and other issues and a lack mentality, anxiety, fear, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And therefore it goes, nothing seems to be going my way. Yeah, because you haven't fixed the problem.
Sure. Yandre, I'm going to stop it here, because I feel like if I ask you another question, you and I are going to go for another hour. Thank you so much for making the time to join me.
It was lovely being here, and I hope there was something to take away for those watching and listening.
It was so lovely chatting to you. It's very like, I can't even, I think this has been one of those conversations where after the conversation, I need a moment. Like so much was shared and I got so much out of it, and it's just like, I need to process and really sit into a lot of things that you shared and take audit.
Well, thanks for giving me a voice. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Resonate community, I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did. I hope you had your notebook and it was so reflective. I feel like I still don't even have the words to describe it, but I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know in the comment section if you're watching this on YouTube or you're listening to this. Let us know what from this conversation really spoke to you the most. We are hoping to have Yandre back on the podcast, and we're going to get into like the tools, all the stuff that you guys also really love. We're really going to get into it. But I think this conversation was so important, particularly because we're wrapping up the first quarter of the year and you've got all the other months ahead of you to build the business, but most importantly, to build yourself. Thank you for tuning in. We'll see you on our next one. Goodbye.